This presentation is by Martin Richards on PHO703 Surface and Strategies. Since starting this master's degree, I've been undertaking a major project that seeks to find and photograph, as they are today, the sites of former POW camps in England, Scotland and Wales. At the start of this module, Surface and Strategies, I believe that I did not actually have a strategy, and that other elements of the module, such as the cooperation and publishing of our work, were either not relevant to myself, my practice, or I'd already sorted it out. I was wrong. I do have a strategy, one that is complex and consisting as it does a number of phases, of which this is only the first phase. This first phase of my strategy is simple: subject matter research in an attempt to find out where the various camps are. Obviously, as with any project these days, I've been using the internet combined with online mapping tools in order to find the various sites and to find out what to expect there when I actually visit the site. In addition to this, I've been undertaking my research within the UK National Archives at Kew, and I expect to be visiting historic England and the equivalent for Scotland and Wales at some point in the future. Having determined whereabouts the sites are and what to expect when I get there, I've been visiting the sites, taking photographs of the sites and any sites I've come across on my journey there and my return home. On returning home, I've been processing my images, writing up my research notes and placing all this material online. My work on this project and other similar projects is to all intents and purposes environmental / documentary photography, and that in some extent I've drawn inspiration from the likes of Willis Wells in her book Land Matters, in which she states that the UK landscape is man-made, unlike the landscapes in places like America where we have a lot of wild landscape. However, neither Wells or any other authors have offered any proof behind this contention, and in many ways this is what my full project is about. In choosing to research POW sites and photograph them as they are now, I am treading in the same shoes as Thom and Beth Atkinson, who produced a book called Missing Buildings, in which they photographed various bomb sites within London. My project is this and a lot more, in the fact I'm covering the entire country, and the documentation in my case is extremely poor, necessitating a lot of subject matter research. My project is so much more than this, and that it covers the entire country, and not only that, there is an awful lot of subject matter research, because the site, the location and the information about the various camps is very poorly documented. POW camp number 72, Ducks Cross, represents in many ways an ideal site in which to explain my approach and my strategy, cooperation and how I've gone about this project. I arrived at what is now an industrial estate made up of small light industry in the grounds of a former farm. The site contains old unrestored buildings, restored and replaced POW prefabs, along with model industrial units, large poultry sheds and a bungalow where the owner lives. I explained to the owner the nature of my project and asked for permission to take photographs. The owner not only consented but took me around the site, including the inside of the buildings, and explained the history of the site, how it has changed over the years, and the fact it was used to house Italian prisoners of war who went on to create extensive gardens within the grounds of the camp. And in doing this, he actually let me have copies, photos that were taken at the time. Better ideas, and what is now part of my main strategy, is a business card. In talking to the various landowners and people I meet on site, I'm not only able to show them my university ID card, but I'm also able to give them a business card that I've had printed for this particular project. The card not only shows my details and the project name, as one would expect with any business card, but it also includes a photograph of all of the actual sites I visited. Crookham Common, which is actually at the bottom of the Greenham Common runway. This has proved a very simple, cost-effective tool in getting my ideas across to various people, and it also allows them to contact me having taken my photos and to let them download copies from the website and to request higher resolution copies from myself. When it comes to publishing my work, one of my original concepts of my project was that I would publish the images in the form of a photo book, something along the lines of the Atkins Missing Buildings project or even John Kipling's Cold War Pastoral. In fact, during Surfacing Strategies, I actually created a photo book after exploring several ideas, and in the end I arrived at a book that tells a very simple story with minimum text and that follows on from page to page. My published photo book consisted of some 24 images. My intent for the project photo book was that it would contain a number of images as the sites are now, plus original images such as those from Ducks Crossing and research notes and other material. Thus far since the start of my project, I visited 126 sites, and allowing say 8 pages per site, you end up with a book of over 1,000 pages. A photo book, photo story too far. In constructing my work in progress portfolio, following on from several tutorial sessions and trial and error on my part, I managed to create a link to presentation by which you could select a thumbnail and view the full size image, or alternatively page through the images or by selection of keywords. This portfolio was published as a PDF and works well on tablets and phones using a touchscreen. In addition to the portfolio itself, I've been able to create Google Map and image data overlays. These overlays show the locations of the sites I visited and those that I have yet to visit, and it shows images on clicking onto the actual icons on the map. The creation of the linked portfolio map overlays has brought me around to the idea of creating and publishing some form of interactive website in which I can display by camp and or by site type or using other index data any form in which I can present my work. The publishing of my work in such a fashion as a website or application allows me my 8 pages per site covering new and old images in my write-ups without the expense of 1,000+ photo book or the hernia that you get in actually trying to lift the thing. I have to say the most cost-effective tool to date was the £35 I spent on my business cards. But my other major tool that I've been using in earnest on this module has cost a little more, £1,600 a drone. It has though been a great investment, and it's enabled me to reach places that I physically cannot walk to as I have a spinal injury, and it's also enabled me to reach out and photograph sites, images, locations that I physically can't reach or can't access, or in this case here I've been able to actually replicate a particular image. These images are of High Cross POW camp. Having talked to the owner and given him my business card, he not only agreed to my taking my photographs, my drone images, but he also placed a condition in that he wanted some additional images of the water tower, which he is actually converting into a family home. POW camp number 65, Seatley Plain, also serves as a good example as to why I bought my drone. This former camp lies between Salisbury Plain and the New Forest, and is made up of gorse and scrubland. This camp, except for one small amount of concrete, is not visible from the ground, and as such is extremely difficult to find. Here, in sending up my drone, I was able to locate the site of the camp, compare it to previous images I've got from the 1940s, and then start to actually take photographs around the site, knowing I'd correctly located it. In moving my project forward, initially it's as simple as going on before: research and visits to various sites, editing and publishing. Specifically, I plan in August and September to spend some time in Northern England and Scotland. As you can see on this map, the blue markers are sites I've yet to visit. As I have already said, my work is being done to a strategy, and this project is split into several phases. This first phase, which I'm doing now, is centred around finding the camps and photographing them as they are now. The next phase is one of more research, but this time that research will be centred on obtaining photographs and details of the camps as they were when they were open. My project in phase 1 or phase 2 will outlast my MA. In fact, I've come across someone who has spent 10 years on similar research, and it's my intention to actually run this project on an indefinite basis.